Good evening, everyone. We'll call the March 18th, 2021 council meeting to order. I would ask that everyone rise for the invocation given by Pastor Cesar Monterosa of the First Baptist Church of Safety Harbor. I would ask you to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, Pastor. Thank you for being here.
Let's pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this meeting. Lord, we asking you to take control, that every point is going to be addressed this evening. Did you take control, Lord, to be with everyone in this place? Lord, we asking you to bless President Biden, bless every members of the Congress, bless the state leaders, and bless our local leaders, the city leaders. Lord, help us. Help us, Lord. We need you. We need you to be with everyone, that we can be safely, that we can address, that we can have a better place to live, to have a better city to live, Lord. Help everyone in this place and give a wisdom to the city leaders. Lord, we ask you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor, thank you for those words and coming out this evening. I want to introduce the dais. On my far right is City Manager Bill Horn.
Good evening.
Councilmember Mark Bunker.
Hello.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Good evening.
Vice Mayor Albritton.
Good evening.
Councilmember Beckman.
Good evening.
And our City Attorney Pam Aiken.
Good evening.
We have some presentations to start the evening. If I could have representatives of the Red Cross, I think Eric Corliss is here. Good evening. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to honor the kindness of our neighbors who aid families in need every day across the United States and around the world, touching millions of lives each year, as they carry out the organization's 140-year mission of preventing and alleviating suffering. And whereas during the trying times of the coronavirus pandemic, people have stepped up to help others in need, whether it was responding to this year's record-breaking disasters across the country or rolling up their sleeves to give blood when our country faced a severe blood shortage. And whereas in Clearwater, local families have relied on the American Red Cross of Tampa Bay volunteers for comfort and hope while coping with local disasters such as home fires, tornadoes, tropical storms, and hurricanes. And whereas the Red Cross assists our vast military community by providing emergency communications, aid, and resources to military members, active and retired, their families and caregivers, as well as support service member organizations, local and domestic, when hosting events in the area. And whereas nearly 200 years since the birth of the American Red Cross founder, Clara Barton, we dedicate this month of March to all those who continue to advance her noble legacy, and we ask others to join in their commitment. Now, therefore, I, Frank V. Hibbard, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2021 to be American Red Cross Month in Clearwater. Please.
Thank you very much. My name is Ellen Landecker, and I am a resident of unincorporated Clearwater. I thank you all very much for making Clearwater the fabulous city it is to live in. On behalf of the Red Cross, I am the vice chair currently in the Tampa Bay area, and we thank you very much for honoring the Red Cross today. As we said, it is Red Cross Month. We are about to go into our Homes Made Safer campaign, which will be running from April 8th to May 8th, where we hope people will sign up. Go on to it. There's a site where you can pledge to prepare to make sure that everybody's home is prepared. We have been doing virtual presentations, even though we couldn't go into schools or classrooms or any businesses. We continue to do that. And then, of course, that's followed by hurricane season, and we've also been doing hurricane preparedness, and we continue to do that. I mostly do it in the schools, and where I go in and speak to children. Eric Corliss is also he's not only the executive director for the Tampa Bay chapter, but he's actually responsible for the whole region, all the way across the state to the Space Coast. We thank you very much, and look forward to an ongoing relationship with you and being there, sort of like an insurance policy that no one ever wants to take advantage of. I lost my home in a fire. It was very unexpected. And 5 a.m, there was a Red Cross volunteer saying, "Do you need clothing or shelter?" And here I am 20 years later volunteering with them because I really do believe in what they do. Hope you never go through that experience, but please do support us at any time you can, because we're here to help you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I'd just like to say thank you for the recognition and the proclamation for Red Cross Month. It's a privilege to partner with the city and continue to serve the constituents and the residents of the city as we move into the future together and improve our resiliency as a community. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for all you do and all the volunteers of the Red Cross. We hope it is a very boring year.
I'm with you.
We need a boring year after last, so thank you for coming out tonight. We can have a round of applause for the Red Cross. Thank you. Next, if I can have David Lamaka, the Executive Director of Neighborly Care Network. Neighborly Care is just a great partner across the entire county, where they serve about 7,426 people, but just in the city of Clearwater, over 1,145, and we're blessed to have the partnership. And we do have a proclamation, if I can get it open. Whereas on March 22nd, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 and established a national nutrition program for seniors 60 years and older. And whereas Meals on Wheels America established the March for Meals campaign in March 2002 to recognize the historic month, the importance of the Older Americans Act nutrition programs, and to raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the 2021 observance of March for Meals celebrates 19 years of providing opportunities to support Meals on Wheels programs that deliver vital services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness. And whereas Neighborly's Meals on Wheels programs have served Clearwater admirably for 55 years and not only deliver nutritious meals to seniors who are at significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also carrying concern and attention to their welfare. And whereas Neighborly's Meals on Wheels programs deserve recognition for the heroic contributions and essential services they have provided amid the COVID-19 pandemic, and will continue to provide to our community long after it is over. Now therefore, I, Frank V. Hibbard, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2021 to be March for Meals Month in Clearwater. I think one of the things in there, Mr. Lamaka, that's so important is not just delivering the meals, but I know those folks who deliver them really connect with all of your clients, and that may be the only personal connection they have during a week.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, Mr. Mayor and City Council, thanks for recognizing Neighborly and having me the opportunity to chat just for a second. And you're absolutely right. Not only do we take care of thousands of seniors, but the seniors are homebound and they're isolated. The only person they probably saw yesterday was our volunteer. The only person they saw today was probably our volunteer. And the only person they see tomorrow is probably going to be our volunteer. So we talk about how the rest of the country has been feeling isolation. We now get a sense of what most of our seniors feel like. Before the pandemic, we were serving about 1,000 seniors a day, and there was 1,200 on a waiting list. We were struggling for funding. The pandemic came with a little bit of a silver lining. There was funding all of a sudden to take everybody off the waiting list. And there was funding to do a number of other things that we've not been able to do. But the value is we needed to go from 300 volunteers to 1,000 volunteers because we went from 1,000 meals a day to 2,500 meals a day. Our numbers for Clearwater, those were 2019 numbers. They're up to 2,400 from last year that we've served. We were doing $1 million of services in Clearwater last year. That'll exceed $1.5 million this year. Or in 2020, I'm sorry, 2020. So yes, the volunteer, the impact on a senior is huge. The impact on the volunteer is huge because some of them have described it as almost a ministry, that they're actually delivering more than a meal. I mean, they are that contact. And next week, the 23rd it's called Community Champions Week, and it's been happening for years. That we reach out to city leaders, to the county leaders, to our state leaders, to say, come out and deliver a meal. Deliver 2 or 3 or 4. A short route could take you half an hour. Do it that week. Get a sense of what happens, what our volunteers see, what it feels like, and then when we come back at the time of the year, we come and ask for funding and support. Then you've had a sense of what it is instead of just listening to me say it. So I know some of you have done that before, and so we really encourage you to do that again if that opportunity is possible for you to do it that week. And it doesn't have to be that week. It could be any time during the year. We'd love to have you come out. We'd love you to see what it's like and see how impressive it is. We went from 330,000 meals delivered in 2019 to 588,000 last year. And that's not packaged groceries. It's a hot delivered meal every day. Increase of 256,000 meals in 1 year.
So if people want to volunteer, where do they contact you?
Easiest way to do it is neighborly.org. We
Okay.
simplified it, not Neighborly Care Network, just neighborly and the .org. You could donate, you could volunteer, you could order services. If you have a family member that needs services, you can order meals there. Whatever it takes.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Next, if I could have Sheridan Boyle come forward for our sustainability coordinator for the city of Clearwater. Can't speak tonight. Whereas up to 3 million tons of food is wasted in Florida annually, while 1 in 5 Floridians lack consistent access to nutritious food for an active, healthy life. And whereas food waste reduction begins at home, since up to 40% of all food waste occurs in the household, and whereas a family of 4 can save an average of $1,500 on uneaten food annually, and whereas preventing food waste supports the Clearwater Greenprint Plan of decreasing our greenhouse gases, reducing waste, and saving precious resources, such as water and energy that are used to produce and transport food that ultimately goes uneaten, and whereas kindergarten to 12th grade classrooms, universities, community groups, and municipalities have a special role in educating the next generation to reduce, recover, and recycle food. Now therefore I, Frank V. Hibbard, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim April 5th through the 9th, 2021 to be Florida Food Waste Prevention Week in Clearwater, and encourage all residents to commit to reducing food waste. Ms. Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you mentioned, the process of growing, transporting, processing, preserving, and disposing food is a really resource-intensive activity. And unfortunately, across the world, we see that 30% of all food is wasted before being eaten. And in the United States, that actually increases to 40%, which is a lot of food going nowhere for no reason. And this past week, I had the pleasure of talking to some of the kids at the Morningside Recreation Center Spring Break Camp. And we did some really fun activities that discussed why reducing food waste is important and how they can do that and how they can encourage their parents to do that. Whether it's making a list before you go to the grocery store and checking what items you already have so that you don't buy 2, or it's creating really fun recipes from whatever you have in the fridge and trying out a new concoction, or composting in your backyard where if you do have food that can't be eaten and can be composted, you try that out instead. And the kids really get it. You know, together we decided that the best tasting food is food that is eaten. So for this Florida Food Waste Prevention Week, we are going to be showing residents how they can do just that, and we're going to be sharing tips on our social media pages. Thank you.
Wonderful. So tune into that, everybody. Okay? Appreciate it. Next, the Nancy and David Billheimer Theater, Capitol Theater, is celebrating its 100th anniversary. And so if I could call the CEO of Ruth Eckerd Hall, Susan Crockett, and the chairman of the board, Michael Bolenbach, forward. You want to do the video first? No? Okay. Whereas the Capitol Theater opened on March 21st, 1921 to present film and live entertainment, becoming a gathering place for Clearwater residents for over a century. And whereas the City of Clearwater partnered with Ruth Eckerd Hall to save, renovate, and reopen this jewel of the downtown district to once again serve the community. And whereas since 2009, this restored landmark has hosted over 1,000 events and is consistently ranked in the top 5 worldwide of venues under 800 seats. Now therefore I, Frank V. Hibbard, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim 2021 to be the centennial year of celebration for the Nancy and David Bilheimer Capitol Theater in Clearwater. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you so much. And we are beginning a centennial year of celebration. And one of the things that we're doing is we will be going out and sharing with others, as well as having neighborly open houses and other kinds of celebrations throughout the year. One of the things that we are doing is we will be placing media placements to advertise that this is the 100th celebration. And as part of that effort, we've created a video that we'd like to share with you this evening. The Capitol Theater has been a gathering place for this community since it opened its doors in 1921. And for 75 years, it entertained thousands of people with all kinds of entertainment, from the earliest films to the vaudeville acts of Sally Rand, Fred Stone, Lum and Abner. It eventually hosted war bond rallies and even a Miss Florida pageant. In 2009, the building faced a crisis. It was under foreclosure, it was in need of major maintenance, and it lacked a purpose. And that was when the City of Clearwater and Ruth Eckerd Hall formed a partnership to save the building.
The Capitol Theater is a great story. It is an example of trying to look into the future. Recessions, pandemics, they don't last forever. And we have to look to the future and making certain that our community is strong and our culture is diverse. And to save this 1921 theater and to partner with Ruth Eckerd Hall to do it was just the perfect opportunity and the perfect marriage.
After being closed for major renovations, it reopened in 2013 with expanded seating, expanded lobby area, 6 private loge boxes, and an outdoor balcony overlooking Clearwater Bay, a VIP lounge, and a rooftop terrace. It had become the cornerstone of the downtown revitalization. More recently, the Capitol Theater has been renamed the Nancy and David Bilheimer Capitol Theater. This philanthropic couple gave a generous donation to allow the Marsha P. Hoffman School for the Arts to expand its arts education programming throughout Tampa Bay.
The education program that Ruth Eckerd Hall has that goes out into the schools, plus brings the kids into the hall, I think is second to none. I believe that last count, it was well over 40,000 students were impacted in a positive way. So I think it's great for Ruth Eckerd Hall. It's great for the students, it's great for the teachers, I think it's great for the parents that their kids go through the program.
This theater did not just survive to see its 100th birthday, it is thriving. With over 130 presentations each year and over 70,000 people coming through its doors. Ticket holders come from down the block, across the bay, and across the ocean. It will remain a vital part of this community for years to come. It is a gathering place where new memories are made every day. We couldn't be prouder. Happy birthday.
It's a good video except for that first guy.
And if I may say, it truly is an honor for Ruth Eckerd Hall and our team to caretake this beautiful, beautiful facility. And we appreciate your trust and assurance in that we're doing a good job. We could not be more proud of what this facility is and what it means to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just like to add just a couple of words. It was the second guy in the video that could have been done so. No, just to follow up some of Susan's kind words about the impact with the city, we really appreciate the partnership. It's been a long partnership. Hopefully has been great for the city. It has been wonderful for Ruth Eckerd Hall and the Capitol Theater, and we're counting on, as the board of directors, we're counting on it happening for many more years to come. So thank you again for everything the city has done. We appreciate it.
We're going to lose somebody on that. Thank you. There's a terrible bump up here and people don't see it, so we need to probably do something. No lawsuits. Congratulations, though, to the Billheimer. We look forward to the next 100 years and celebrating the anniversary this entire year. We're going to open it up to citizens to be heard in just a moment. If you want to speak either for citizens to be heard or on any item, if you could get a speaker's card and just fill that out, we would appreciate it. At this time, I'd ask if there are any amendments to the minutes of the March 4th, 2021 meeting.
Move approval is submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Now I'd like to open it up to citizens to be heard. If you'd like to speak to any item that is not on the agenda, we ask you to come forward and state your name, and we respectfully ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Jerry McGuire. I live at 1100 Turner Street. And I just wanted to say, surprisingly, that I think you're all doing a very good job, downtown. And I was out there Saturday at about 4 o'clock and was sitting at the Black Brick. Now, I read this article in the paper. I just wanted to clarify something. There was a misunderstanding. You had so many people out there, you can't put them in one place. And because of the whole virus and all, you have to drop them off in the center where they can just divide out until we can build up the city big enough to hold that many people. You had a lot of people out there, but it was really nice. I was in there in the Black Brick, and I was in there with my Mike Rinder dolls, $32. Everybody should buy one. It's good luck charm. It's very good luck charm for everybody. But it was really nice. It was inspiring. I personally thought it was like biblical. A lot of people, if you read your stuff, to me it was biblical. So I think everybody should see it. It was really neat. It was really neat to see all these people there, and they're stars of the city. They're the stars of the city. You're the star now. So, but I just wanted to say that I think you're all doing a great job. You really are. And Mark, you're doing a fantastic job. I just wanted to give you support on this and tell you that I think that the Tampa Bay Times is just, they're part of the problem. I mean, there was a misunderstanding. That's all it was. I spoke with them. I go in there all the time. The reason I spend money downtown is because of you. Because since 1970, I've lived here since 75. I've not spent nothing down there. Okay? Because of you, I spend money down there. And you do a great job. Thank you.
Keep my comments to a minimum, I have a paper. Good evening, Mayor Hibbard and esteemed members of the council. I'm Pamela Yusi, Director of the Community Dental Clinic, and I'm pleased to be here tonight with not only Paul Umberg, our President of the Board of Directors, but several of our volunteers to share a little information with you about our clinic. The Community Dental Clinic is a business of smiles. So we, since we partnered with the city and the Salvation Army and the Clearwater Free Clinic and ARC of Tampa Bay to open our doors in 2013, our dedicated staff and more than 20 local dental professionals who donate or volunteer their time and expertise, we've delivered more than $5.3 million worth of free dental services and have performed more than 40,000 dental procedures across more than 12,500 appointments to help people in our community. As you probably know, dental health means more, though, than pretty smiles. Studies link poor oral health to heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, malnutrition, diabetes, arthritis, sepsis, cancer, even Alzheimer's. We are the dental home for 2,700 disadvantaged adults, the unemployed, underemployed, disabled, veterans, and seniors in our community who do not have the insurance or resources to seek the help they desperately need. They are our neighbors, our friends, and our fellow citizens. We at the Community Dental Clinic are their first choice of last result for quality dental care. And there are more than 100,000 people in Pinellas who live in this bracket, near the poverty line with no dental insurance. We can help them, and we need your support. You can start by dining out. The district in downtown Clearwater has selected the Community Dental Clinic as their charity of choice for their March Dine Out for a Difference event. And I cordially invite you and everyone in the audience to dine out both in person and online next Thursday, March 25th. There are 11 restaurants who have joined forces to donate 10% of their dinner revenue to our cause. The Restoration Cafe, which is only open till 4 p.m., will donate 10% of their entire day's receipts. So join us next Thursday and help bring a smile to others. And to help you remember to participate in Dine Out for a Difference, and to help you be proactive with your own dental health, we've provided you a flyer and a toothbrush. Make sure you read the former and use the latter after every meal. Thank you for your time and for your support.
Thank you, Pamela. So thank you for the toothbrush. And we hope to see everybody out there next Thursday, the 25th. Frequent those restaurants all the time, but certainly do support the dental clinic. We look forward to that and hope for perfect weather. Any other citizens to be heard? Yes, Ms. Call.
An email from Jack Schaefer. Everything about the Clearwater that I grew up in the 60s is gone. Scientology took over the city, and I recall both Hubbard in the 60s and David in the past 4 years calling Clearwater City their campus. They believe they own our city. Anything that takes that thought away from them is good. The city belongs to the citizens that live here, not our politicians, and certainly not a single church. The city needs to grow a pair and kick them in theirs.
How vivid. Okay, any others? Anyone else for citizens to be heard before I close it? All right, I would ask if there are any items from the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.7, to be removed by either the council or citizens. Motion?
I move to, for 7.1 through 7.7.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 8.1.
Approve the City of Clearwater's fiscal year 2019-2020 consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, otherwise known as the CAPER. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Chuck Lane, Economic Development and Housing Department. I'll be using a brief PowerPoint again tonight to present to you our consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. The acronym, of course, is the CAPER. So the CAPER is a report of our activity with the use of federal funds, which are Community Development Block Grant Program funds and Home Investment Partnership Program funds. In the narrative of in the narrative sections of the report, we do discuss our use of state and local funds because it helps to provide a more accurate picture of the body of work we do with respect to community development and affordable housing. So this slide shows you the money on the federal side. Our CDBG and home allocations together with prior year funds and program income total about $4.1 million, which was the total funds available for the program year. Our spending on the federal side was down due to complexities brought forward by the pandemic, of course. Our public service programs managed to carry on and spend down the funds. But where we struggled was to complete construction projects. So we have a decent amount of funding that has carried over to the current fiscal year, which is important because we have some large projects lined up. This slide shows the money on the state and local side. We had nearly $1.2 million in State Housing Initiative Partnership Program funding. That was primarily program income. Our allocations from the state have been down over the last few years. We still have a small balance of Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund money, and we distribute $235,000 in general funds to 6 organizations that deal with the homeless population in Clearwater. So use of federal funds leverages the use of other funds. We typically see this occur mostly on the housing construction side of our work. So I think you'll see this leverage number increase quite a bit with the next CAPER report. We always need to track those we assist. It's a HUD requirement. We fund 2 organizations for micro enterprise business technical assistance. Through these 2 partnerships, we assisted 83 small businesses and entrepreneurs. We did manage to complete construction of 1 single-family home with Habitat for Humanity. And each year, the lion's share of the people we assist is always through our public service partners. This is the number of people we assisted with state and local funds. We have 3 partners that teach homebuyer education for us. We managed to complete 8 home rehabilitation projects. We also completed 1 down payment assistance loan. As I explained at Monday's work session, we're proposing changes to our down payment assistance program that should result in an increase of down payment assistance loans that we put out the door. We completed 2 tax credit housing projects in November 2019. These 2 projects created 160 newly constructed rental units for our working residents in the lower income ranges. Madison Point is a senior living project at 380 South Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. And Woodlawn Trail is the other project. That's a family-style project in the Lake Bellevue neighborhood. Both projects contain 80 units and are fully occupied. These are the partners we fund with our CDBG dollars to provide public services to Clearwater citizens. You're all familiar with these organizations, and when you see them on the slide all at once, one thing that catches your attention is the diversity of services offered through our CDBG program to our residents. More of our partners. These organizations provide homebuyer education classes, and they also partner with us on our down payment assistance loans. The micro enterprise partners I mentioned earlier are Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation. They have a heavy presence in our North Greenwood community. And Hispanic Business Initiative Fund of Florida, doing business as Prospera. They primarily assist Hispanic residents, mostly in our downtown Gateway area. We worked on public facilities projects with the ARC, Directions for Living, Hope Villages of America, which is formerly RCS Pinellas, and the Homeless Empowerment Program. So these are the partners we worked with on housing projects. We completed 1 home with Habitat for Humanity, as I mentioned. We're working on several others right now with them. Clearwater Neighborhood Housing Services and Emerge Economic Community Development Corporation are each constructing a single-family home in North Greenwood. Both should be done in the next couple of months. We're helping Community Service Foundation to rehabilitate a duplex that will be occupied by 2 very low-income households as part of the Going Home Coalition. And we funded the rehabilitation of 7 units at Lexington Club at Renaissance Square. It's an affordable senior living complex. Our investment there is a very small portion of a much larger project. That complex is 240 units getting a full makeover, mostly the interior of the units. This is the home we completed with Habitat for Humanity at 1205 Blanchby Littlejohn Trail. I'm excited to pass along that Habitat has recently become very active in North Greenwood, working on a number of projects, and there are several in the planning stages as well. So we're picking up our activity with them. We have some other things going on. On the owner-occupied side, as I mentioned, we have a number of single-family homes under construction and awaiting construction, and some even in the planning stages. Our homeowner rehabilitation program, we put it on pause because of COVID. We'll be getting ready to start that up soon again, and we have some folks waiting on us to do that. A little bit of pent-up demand there, I think. On the rental side, we're working on an 81-unit high-rise in downtown at the former location of Fire Station 45. Those will be 100% below 80% of area median income. 171 unit mixed income mid-rise will be on South MLK between MLK and Washington, across the street from the Nolan. Both of those, that's a workforce housing project. All the units will be below 120% of area median income. Those 2 projects are in partnership with the CRA as well. We're being asked to participate in a major rehab at Palmetto Park Apartments, a very important rental project in the North Greenwood community. And I mentioned the duplex we're working on with the Going Home Coalition and Lexington Club as well. And you're aware of the efforts we put towards COVID relief efforts. We helped a number of families who fell behind with housing assistance, with housing payments. Put a lot of staff resources towards that. We stood up we funded some public service programs, and there are more to come in that area as well. So that concludes my presentation. Be happy to take any questions at this time. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Lane? Councilmember Bunker.
Not a question, but I've seen all the progress being done at Lexington Club, and thank you for contributing to that. They're doing a major long overdue overhaul there. It's progressing nicely.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Chuck, thank you for all you're doing. I know it's been tough budgetarily, especially from the state. Hopefully it's going to improve this year, but we appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
So do I have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 8.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.2.
Approve the request from the owner of property addressed at 1068 El Dorado Avenue, Clearwater, to vacate a platted 5-foot utility easement described as the west 5 feet of Lot 5, Block 70, Mandalay, recorded in Plat Book 14, pages 32 to 35 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and pass ordinance number 9439-21 on first reading. Ms. Kivett.
Thank you, Mr. Horn, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Tara Kivett, Engineering Director. The owner of this property requested that we vacate a 5-foot utility easement at the rear of the property. City staff have approved and have no objections to this request. Any questions?
Any questions? Councilmember Hamilton.
How many other properties along this easement have already been vacated, or have any?
They have.
Yeah,
So
we've already vacated some others.
I don't have that number. We did make, we evaluated, it was asked whether we should do this all at once, and we decided to wait as the individual property owners make the request and the process it.
This is not the first one.
No, in fact, and there's one coming next month, so there's at least 5.
Other questions or comments? Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.2? Have a motion?
Move to pass item 8.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9439-21, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating a platted 5-foot utility easement described as the west 5 feet of Lot 5, Block 70, Mandalay, recorded in Plat Book 14, pages 32 to 35 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance 9439-21 on first reading.
Second.
Anyone to speak to the ordinance? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9.1.
Amend the city's fiscal year 2020-2021 operating and capital improvement budgets at first quarter and pass ordinances 9446-21 and 9447-21 on first reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kayleen Castle, Budget Officer. This is the first quarter budget review for the fiscal year 2021 budget. I went over the report with you on Monday, but would be happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Any questions? Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.1? A motion?
I move to approve agenda item 9.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9446-21, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the operating budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021, to reflect increases in revenues and expenditures for the General Fund, Special Development Fund, Special Program Fund, Gas Fund, Parking Fund, and Administrative Services Fund as provided herein, providing an effective date.
Have a motion?
Motion to pass ordinance 9446-21 on first reading.
Second.
Anyone from the public to speak to the ordinance? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Ordinance number 9447, 21, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the capital improvement budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021, to reflect a net increase of $30,820,452, providing an effective date.
A motion?
Move to pass ordinance 9447-21 on first reading.
Second.
Anyone to speak to this ordinance? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9.2.
Confirm COVID-19 emergency proclamation and adopt resolution 21-12.
Give Mr. Graham the night off?
Yes, this is spring break for him.
Good for him. This is like Groundhog Day. Any questions about the COVID resolution?
Just go straight to the resolution. I don't think we have, has the item number, do we?
Yes.
Oh, motion to approve agenda item 9.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Aiken.
Resolution number 21-12, confirmation of COVID-19 emergency proclamation, March 18th, 2021. A resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, confirming declarations of a state of emergency, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt resolution 21-12.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.1.
PSTA Forward Pinellas update from our Vice Mayor.
Okay. Well, we haven't had another PSTA meeting since my last update, so it'll be the next meeting where I'll give that. But we did have a Forward Pinellas meeting and a TMA meeting. And Forward Pinellas is our transit plus our land use MPO, and it was an interesting meeting. We had a situation for a change in land use in exactly the opposite of what we had with the landings. They had a light industrial site that a couple of the neighborhoods surrounding wanted the change to allow a company to come in and put a swimming area and a recreational use. And there were a couple of the neighborhoods surrounding didn't want that. They wanted a Amazon trucking center. So anyway, the Fort Pinellas staff thought that that would be a better use going to something more industrial. So that part of it got voted down. We did have a couple other land uses. One was a Clearwater. The board approved 3 amendments to the countywide map plan. One of them was an amendment from the City of Clearwater to amend property at 1280 and 1298 Lakeview Road from residential medium to residential low medium. Those were all passed. Board unanimously approved amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program, which is called the TIP. The board unanimously approved and accepted the PPC and MPO audits, and also recognize that March is Florida Bike Month. Board unanimously approved a resolution to support the Safe Streets Pinellas Action Plan, and Jensen Hackett, the FDOT, updated the board on the action of temporary delineators, you know, the blinking signs that are going to go in through. There's actually a change that they want to make those yellow blinking signs to red ones, but it's come into a snag, and it's going to cost a lot of money. That's one of the reasons it's kind of got snagged right now, but that may be coming, so there may be some costs that are going to be associated with that to change them all out. So I had my first meeting of the TMA leadership group. TMA is a transportation management area, and all the MPOs in the area belong to a TMA. It's the way everything's set up by the federal government for their funneling money into certain areas. So a TMA is set up in an urbanized area with a population over 200,000. So when you combine Clearwater, Pinellas County, Pasco, and Hillsborough, we definitely meet that. And we get together and we actually set plans for the future for all the different organizations to try to make some semblance of, requests from the federal government to make sense. In other words, one area helping the other area. I think it's a challenge for Clearwater and Pinellas County has for a long time been looking forward to having a bus service from Tampa to Clearwater. We don't have that. They've got them to St. Pete, but not Clearwater. So the only thing we really decided on at that first meeting and I represent the Ford Pinellas, was the name change. Instead of the TMA Leadership Group, they're going to call it now the Suncoast Transit Planning Alliance. And they wanted to get a website address, so they needed a name, and we got that done. Next meeting will be sometime in June or July, so I'll give you an update when we have that.
All righty, any questions for the Vice Mayor on transportation? All right, thank you. Item 10.2.
Called City Tours, Councilmember Bunker.
Thank you. So there's been a lot of consternation lately about the tours. And I thought it was probably best for us to talk about it openly, since we can't talk about it individually among ourselves. Here's my belief. This sprang forth from a suggestion that I put forward in an earlier meeting saying we should consider Scientology tourism, and I was serious about that. The idea was to bring people downtown, people who are leery of Scientology, take them on a tour of the properties, show them what a great downtown this is at the same time, and at the end of it, demystify Scientology and make people unafraid to just come down here and enjoy the downtown. Now, after saying this at a meeting, Ted Reinhardt texted me and said, "Great idea." And that was the last I heard of it until like a month later when I got another text from him saying, "We got the business license and the LLC, we got our tax, city tax, whatever it is, and we're ready to go." So I had no idea that this was actually coming to life. It's not my company, but I have been trying to advise along the way to help him do this in a better way. Now, there was a huge flap this weekend and an article in the Tampa Bay Times by Tracy McManus, very good article. She was right on the spot when she criticized Ted for having left a bad review for a couple of our downtown restaurants. I talked to Ted. Ted's removed those, understands that that is entirely the wrong way to go. I've tried talking to the managers of the different restaurants. I had a nice conversation this morning with the Black Brick GM. And I think we can get this to a point where it will be seen as a positive. I did go and meet with one group of tourists a few weekends ago who had just finished the tour. We met up at Downtown Pizza, and we talked to them for like an hour. They all said the same thing. We didn't want to come down here. We took the tour. We love it. We're going to come back and have dinner here with our friends. That is hopefully the process that will be a regular thing. So far, from my understanding, Ted's brought the equivalent of 2 tour buses of people down for individual tours. And this past weekend, there was a special tour where a lot of former members of Scientology who had been guest stars on Scientology in the Aftermath came to be guest tour guides. And they took turns working with the Parks and Rec Department. Ted found a way to safely get this large group of people. There was 80 to 100 people that came for this, from here in the city, from around the state, and people flying in from around the country to be part of this as well. And they managed to put 3 sections of the groups on 2 different sides of the street, all listened in on their phones, so they could all enjoy the tour without getting too close, without making too much trouble. And at the end of it, the hope was that those 80 people would just wind up on Cleveland Street, sit down at tables outside and order some food and have a great time here. There were some miscommunications, some terrible miscommunications that snowballed and got out of hand. Eventually, we took the group over to Safety Harbor, and they all enjoyed a meal over there in Safety Harbor. So when I look at the situation now, on the scale of concerns for downtown, Scientology and the tour, it seems to me Scientology has been a much greater problem for Clearwater than this new tour. And to me, the thing that Ted has shown already is that he can change. The one thing we know about Scientology, they cannot change. They will not change. All the policies were put in place by L. Ron Hubbard. They're not allowed to change those policies. One of their policies is anyone who criticizes Scientology is a criminal. All you need to do to silence them is to dig up their crimes. And of course, if you can't dig them up, manufacture them. So we found out leading up to this weekend's thing, and my friend Aaron Smith-Levin, who was on Scientology in the aftermath, whose family was torn apart by disconnection, whose brother committed suicide from this. So perhaps there is a little more passion from Aaron on the subject than some others who might be sitting here in the room right now. But Aaron walked in on one of the last restaurants he was going to try to arrange, hey, can we come here after the event on Saturday? And he found Pat Harney, the PR lady from Scientology, and Amber, who's head of, with the Welcome Center for Scientology, were presenting the restaurant owner with the injunction that was put in place 20 years ago that names me as part of one of 15 people who used to work for the Lisa McPherson Trust. Now, I don't know about you. I've never gone into a restaurant and said, don't serve any Scientologists. I'm happy to talk to Scientologists and befriend Scientologists, and I don't have a problem with Scientologists. But for them to go in and say, watch out for this individual, he's dangerous, that to me is a problem. That really should be addressed. And it's not just about me. Scientology has tried to use those same tactics against other businesses in the city, driving some businesses out of town or out of the downtown. I talked to a print shop owner who created some stuff for my campaign last year. He was telling me, I lost 5 customers who used to be downtown, but Scientology, bought their properties and they're gone now. They left the area. So Scientology, the tour, Scientology is what we need to be concerned about and what we should be thinking about. Now, as I said, Ted has some growing pains. One of the things that I hope he reconsiders is the name Cult City Tours. Because for a business, my God, that's brilliant. Oh my God, wouldn't you want to book that tour? That sounds like fun. But branding the city, risking branding the city as Cult City is horrible. And I understand completely why the city would be upset about that. I would urge Ted, who's here, and I'd like him to give us some comments, if we can find a better name for it. And I was thinking this afternoon, what might be good would be Scientology Aftermath Tours. Yeah, it's got the word Scientology in the title, which he was trying to avoid. And there is a Scientology in the Aftermath TV show. So, you know, he'd have to check with a lawyer to see if there'd be any legal problems with doing that. But I think that would probably be an acceptable title. And I think that would say to people what this is and get people interested in coming down to a tour which starts off with something like, we're not associated with Scientology or A&E Network or Scientology Aftermath, but if you've watched the show on Netflix or A&E, we're going to show you around all the buildings that you've seen on the show. And we're going to tell you some more back history of the organization here in the city. I would love at some point if that wound up at a museum where there was Project Normandy and a place for former members to come and do Q&As with people. An educational forum like that, I think would be good for the city. I know there are people who will disagree with me, but that was my original idea. And I don't know if we want to bring up Ted or we want to talk among ourselves first.
Well, if I open it up to the public, I'm opening it up to everybody.
Okay.
I'm not just opening it up to
Sure.
Mr. Reinhardt. So, are any questions or comments to Mayor Bunker at this time, or do you want to
Mayor
open
Bunker,
discussion?
I like that.
Mr.
Oh, Mr. Oh.
Easy there. Huh?
You slipped. I was a little slip.
Did I? If you want the job, you can have it right now.
I'd prefer to hear from people first before.
Yeah. So are there any folks from the audience? I do need you to fill out a comment card if you're going to come up and speak. Please come forward and state your name. You can fill it out after.
Hi. Wow, I feel like the most hated man in Clearwater, but that's cool. It's not you, Mr. Mayor, it's me now. I'm doing what I can. I have a prepared statement. I sent this in early for record. My name is Ted Reinhardt, R-E-I-N-H-A-R-D. I work for Cult City Tours. On behalf of the owner, Ms. Khalifi, salam alaikum, and thank you for having us here tonight. We started this company officially, launching last month. Since then, we've got nearly 300 reservations for our tours. 300 in a month. That's ridiculous. That's, let's see, 30 people per tour bus. That's 10 buses of tourists. And we're bringing them downtown. It's 300 people, tourists. We're bringing downtown with money to spend. Admittedly, 100%, things went off the rails lately, and that is the truth. And I would like to thank Councilman Mark Bunker, because he made it very clear to us that cooperation is the solution. And we absolutely agree. We apologize, we have fixed our error, and sincerely hope for stronger relationships with our wonderful downtown businesses. We invite downtown restaurants and businesses. Give us your business cards, coupons, menus. I'll throw them in a backpack, and I'll carry them with me, handing them out as we go. Let us drive business through your doors. And in the future, if anybody has a problem, call. That's what Mark did. Mark said, instead of all this, everybody's commenting and all the press and all that, Mark picked up the phone, our number's on the website, and he called. And even we had and even Miss Lena had a concern also. She called. 24 hours later, no problem, you got it. Our policy is to get along. And all you got to do, give us a shout. I mean, we're right here. Stop talking about us, start talking to us. We're very friendly folk. A quick timeline of where we've been and where we're going. In January, this whole thing was an idea in January. In January, we discussed membership of the Chamber of Commerce, offered a free tour and introduced ourselves. They politely declined. That was the only time we heard back from anyone we emailed. We also reached out to the Downtown Clearwater Merchants Association, and we heard nothing back. This is before we had a name. We heard nothing back. Well, we even reached out to the Church of Scientology. True, I got a copy. And we heard nothing back. We appeared before the Downtown Development Board, and we all know who that went. And so what we did was we were left reaching out to ex-Scientologists. To get their stories, get their information, get their experiences, and from that we created a tongue-in-cheek satirical walking tour of downtown, led by myself as a costume character, Commodore Obvious. To give back for their help and the dozens of others that contact us with their stories and their histories. We actually we volunteered and we offered a charity superfan tour. We raised over $1,200. We raised over $1,200 to the Aftermath Foundation. People flew in from around the country with a direct and indirect economic impact of thousands of dollars because they didn't stay in Dunedin, they didn't stay in St. Petersburg, they stayed at the beach. They put their money right here where their mouth was. And we also had 600 people worldwide listening to the call. It was kind of weird. My audio messed up when I was walking on the tour, and all I saw was 80 people that would just start randomly laughing as they were listening to their phone. It's kind of odd. I would also, I would like to strongly commend the City Parks and Rec Department. They helped us get in compliance with City Desires for operating the Superfan Tour.
Please wrap it up.
Okay, all right, we've got great civil servants worth our tax dollars. Fantastic. The future, we're bringing in vans. We're going to get a storefront with a small museum. We're actually hiring more staff to keep up. It's been insane.
Thank you.
All right, any questions?
Any questions? Not at this time.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I promise to fill out a card afterwards. I got a tight 3 minutes. Want to share a few comments. I think the criticism we have heard about Cult City Tours has been fair. I hope they will make reforms to resolve the concerns that have been raised. I appreciate the fact that Ted wants to show the people of Clearwater that Scientology is no reason to avoid coming downtown. I appreciate that he wants to demystify it and wants to drive business into the downtown district, business that would otherwise stay away. If he can accomplish that in a way that doesn't hurt the city's brand, then I think that is something everyone could get behind. However, none of the criticism of Cult City Tours has anything to do with the event that I helped organize this past Saturday, and that's what I'm really here to talk about. Sorry. This past Saturday, March 13th, 8 contributors of the Scientology and the Aftermath show hosted a tour of downtown Clearwater. This idea for the tour came about when my friends Mark and Claire Headley decided to visit Clearwater for spring break. Mark and Claire were featured in the Scientology and the Aftermath TV show. Mark said that while he was here, he wanted to guest host one of Ted's tours. I told Mark that if he was going to do it, then I was going to join him. Since Mark and I were already doing it, Mike Rinder suggested let's just make it a Scientology and the Aftermath reunion tour. So there was myself, Mike Rinder, Christy Colburn, Mark and Claire Headley, David Kahn, and Matt Pesch were leading the tour. Councilmember Mark Bunker was also present and recorded the event. The Rinders and the Headleys and myself are also board members of the Aftermath Foundation, which helps people who are leaving Scientology. To acknowledge our involvement in the tour, Ted and his company generously donated the proceeds of Saturday's event to the Aftermath Foundation. We took almost 100 people through the various Scientology properties here in downtown. The overarching theme was, see, there's nothing to be afraid of here. You should be comfortable coming down here as often as possible. We avoided taking everybody right through the district so as not to distract the diners, but while walking past the district on Fort Harrison and Osceola, we pointed out all the fantastic businesses and restaurants and encouraged them to come down as often as possible. It was an extremely positive and well-received event. It is unfortunate but predictable that Scientology Sea Org members Amber, Pat, and Lisa Mansell visited all of the businesses on Cleveland Street and elsewhere downtown to spread false information and fear about what the event was going to be and what we would be doing in the restaurants afterwards. I actually, as I heard Mark Bunker say, walked into Pour Yours at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday and accidentally interrupted Amber, who was there speaking with the owner for the sole purpose of feeding him derogatory propaganda about Councilmember Bunker, myself, and the event that I was organizing. There have been some incorrect reports. Sorry, I'm out of breath, guys. There's been some incorrect reports that I tried to book an after party at some of these places and was denied. This is not actually correct. The tour itself was the event. The only conversations I had with the business owners was to give them advance notice that we'd be bringing 50 to 100 people to order food and drinks. We didn't want to overwhelm the kitchen and service staff. Every place that I spoke with was thrilled to have our business until Scientology intervened with propaganda and fear-mongering. Scientology actively thwarted meaningful economic activity from occurring in the district on Saturday. Something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. Scott Sousa, Downtown Clearwater Merchants Association. Excuse me, but I had to throw open my mouth a little bit when I'm listening to Mr. Reinhold spew on about his wonderful things he's doing for the city. You all know how hard we have worked, the hundreds and hundreds of hours we have put in. We are furious and livid that they're making a joke of this. This man is an absolute joke. He took 3 of our businesses to task, lied about it. I mean, made up absolute lies. Talked to a Christian pastor, did the same. It's just unbelievable that they can get up here and backtrack now and backpedal and try and fix what they screwed up. I was actually going to ask Pam. I know that the City of Clearwater is a public domain. So if you go to Facebook and look up Clearwater City Tours, it is intentionally, they use that name, they've taken that name, and intentionally send it to Cult City Tours because they probably know that Facebook wouldn't allow that, and they'd get more followers. And I think they're misrepresenting the city. I think it should go away. He already talked about that. I'm sorry, I'm just, like I said, I'm livid. And for somebody who intends to run for city council and be behind this, to all the hard work we've done and all the great jobs. They brought 300 people down here. We brought 30,000 people down here in the last 6 months. We've worked really hard to get this done. Mr. Bunker has been an advocate of everything we've done. And this just, makes us backpedal and waste endless time on negativity that we've done nothing but try and create a positive and outgoing atmosphere for downtown. And it's worked. We've done a tremendous job. You all know that. You support us. And I'm just voicing our opinion. And no, you can't go and lie and say slanderous things about our businesses and then backpedal and go, oh, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. No, it's crap. This is the business that they are. They're not here to help us. They're not here to help Clearwater. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens to be heard? I will close citizens to be heard. Councilmember Bunker, do you have something to add?
Yeah, just as, I agree with you. It was crap. What happened was completely wrong. But to say that it can't be changed, I think is also wrong. What had happened is a couple negative reviews were put up on TripAdvisor. They were taken down. There's been some apologies. And you can make sure that doesn't happen again.
Can't come back for a second time, Scott. Sorry.
Yeah.
We don't give anybody a second bite of the apple. Well, having been somebody who has worked to try to help turn downtown around for over 20 years, you've mentioned a lot of the things that I'm not happy about. And frankly, the paper didn't even print all the things that I said, which were even stronger. But, I'm happy to have, I've always told people that they should be comfortable coming to downtown Clearwater. There is nothing to fear, and the businesses that are down here deserve to be supported. And so this is pretty upsetting to somebody like me. I think the name is horrible. It is going to come up on Google searches and any other search when people look for Clearwater. And, Scientology is mainly based just in the very downtown core. If you go from Tampa International Airport to Clearwater Beach, you wouldn't even know Scientology existed in Clearwater. So to have this as something that's going to come up, I think is damaging. And it's damaging people I care about, which are people that have put their hard money and hours of hard work to try to make downtown better. And it can hurt the beach too. It can just hurt the entire city of Clearwater. That's why I'm opposed to it. And then when I heard about the reviews, that's pretty much when I was done. Especially when they say that these businesses only cater to Scientologists. Well, that's a bunch of crap, because I go to all of the businesses that were mentioned, and I'm a Southern Baptist and always have been. So to smear somebody like that, and to try to scare people away from coming to certain businesses, I think is inexcusable. Now there are First Amendment rights that they have to run the tours. Obviously, that's something we can't prohibit. But I'll tell you what, and I've told this to somebody else, and they may be watching tonight. Fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice is never going to happen again. I mean, it just was, it really is inexcusable. And I know you are saying that everything that occurred was wrong and that they need to right it. But if it happens again and you're supporting it, I have to lump you in. So, I mean, you were helping film and everything else the other day. So that's how I feel. You obviously are entitled to your feelings. Those are mine. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this. When you brought up the idea to begin with, first of all, I didn't like it because I don't like taunting anybody. And I know that Scientology is a target in Clearwater. I've been here all my life. So, I mean, you don't have to tell me that it's hard for us to overcome their presence here. It's not that it doesn't affect the downtown. People can come downtown. They will probably not see any Scientologists when they come down. But just because that they're close, it's hard. So our merchants have struggled for years and years. I've been involved with downtown over 20 years trying to turn it around into a vibrant downtown. The CRA's mission statement now is to tell all the success stories about downtown. And we have a lot of them. And then when this comes along, and first of all, you call it the cult city, that does more damage in one sentence, I think, than a year's worth of work that everybody's put together here. It's just, we aren't a cult city. And then when I hear about the bullying of the restaurants and what happened there, that put me over the top as well. I mean, come on. I mean, you are telling everybody that how Scientology bullies, and then you pull the exact same thing. Not you, I'm just saying they do, the tour. And, these merchants downtown are struggling, and they need to keep their doors open to all patrons down here. But to make it sound like that just, this restaurant is a Scientology restaurant, don't go there, it's a complete lie, and that undermines everything that we've really worked hard, all our organizations, I mean, not only the merchants, but the partnership and the, CRA, I mean, all of us have worked really hard to do this. So if we had a ghost tour in downtown Clearwater, I probably wouldn't be upset about it because, I mean, you can't offend a ghost. I mean, that's not, they have ghost tours in cities, but to say a cult tour and come here and start taunting and to see if you can get a reaction to people down here is just, I just think that's wrong.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Again, as another person who's been here all his life, I remember very well what downtown Clearwater was before the purchase of the Fort Harrison Hotel by the United Churches of Florida. We've all worked ever since, we lost our downtown, not because of Scientology, we lost our downtown because of indoor air-conditioned malls. We had our first mall built, Sunshine Mall, which is no longer with us, and then Clearwater Mall and Countryside Mall, and everything moved out, created a lot of opportunity, and the only people that took advantage of the opportunity, I'm sad to say, is Scientology. But, it is what it is, but, and as the mayor alluded to, there's First Amendment issues and whatnot. I'm more of the opinion, I think what has transpired up to this point is highly detrimental to what a lot of efforts have been as far as trying to create things in our downtown. Because it's the old story. When you put something on the internet, when you hit send, whether you take it back, delete it or not, it's there, and it's there forever. So, given all that, I look at the business itself and I say, part of me just says, I'm willing to just let it run because I don't think it has a long shelf life. I personally don't believe it has a long shelf life. I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, I damn well don't want it to continue to be named Cult City Tour, because I think that is just an absolute taking a sledgehammer to what we're trying to do in our downtown. But, I'm not a fan of what the tour is necessarily, but I'll defend your right to have that business. But again, I just, in my heart and in my mind and what I know of Clearwater, I'm not sure this has a long shelf life. But
Councilmember Beckman.
So I pretty much agree with all that's been said up here. We do operate within legal parameters. Different cities have tours. There are Hollywood tours, and Boston has a walking tour of historical Boston. And I haven't been on the tour, so I can't speak of what it actually is. I've seen clips, 8-minute clip or 7-minute clip of the tour. What I would say is I too agree, I don't care for the name. It definitely has negative connotations. But I would hope that whatever tour is going on is not denigrating people, is not making businesses or residents feel uncomfortable, pointed at, gawked at. And there are a couple of quotes, I think Ted's last name, Reinhardt, Mr. Reinhardt was quoted as saying, well, I'm just kind of a clown in a costume out here making a buck, and the name was a marketing, win. But he also said tonight that, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek and sarcastic information, and I just don't know that that's what it should be. I mean, if you want to do a tour of Clearwater and talk about Imagine Clearwater and our amphitheater that's coming and the park that's coming and interactive features and CRA property that's available, look how wonderful it is here, and these properties are available, and include that kind of stuff as well, then call it, come discover Clearwater tour. But again, I mean, we can't dictate names, we can't dictate the content of a tour, we can dictate being safe and respectful of our merchants, but, clearly the point is to sensationalize and point out certain areas, and I just don't think that's a real respectful thing. I think it's targeting, and sure, it's going to bring business maybe to the restaurants, but I would think if you don't give it enough oxygen, it's going to kind of, either it'll keep going, or it'll peter out. But I think, I mean, I'm not thrilled about it.
Mr. Bunker.
And again, I agree with you on almost every point. Most wholeheartedly, I want to impress upon you again what a horrible, horrible name that is for the city. And you really need to change that if you want to continue. Scientology Aftermath Tours has a ring to me. I don't know if that's what you'll wind up with or not, but I see an educational tour that doesn't necessarily mock. So you might want to tone down your character. But there's still, it's a fascinating subject which has spawned book after book, Going Clear on HBO, Scientology in the Aftermath, bigger than ever on Netflix. People have won Pulitzers talking about this. It is something that people know about Clearwater, and it can be turned into a positive if done properly. Again, no mocking. Drop that name and support all the businesses that we have been trying to support. And I think it can be positive, but that has to be shown in the execution.
All right.
Again, it's not my company.
Nothing else? Okay. Anything else, Mr. Horn?
No.
Ms. Aiken, anything?
No, sir.
All right, other council action item 12.1.
My understanding about tonight, we had our discussion on Monday, is do we have, would we like to bring in Dr. Payne to give us his presentation on the various pros, cons, and otherwise of various voting processes and things of that nature? As I said on Monday, we're a majority rules government. I mean, we've got to have 3 out of 5 votes up here. If one of us is missing, you still got to have 3 votes because 2-2 doesn't get you anything. So it's, and as I said, I think Clearwater, the only places where their elected officials, the elected officials get elected without 50% majorities are your smaller towns. We've had a few. I know the first time Mr. Albritton ran for city council, Bill Johnson did not get 50%. But historically, we have had only 2 people running, in most cases, 2 people running for a seat, sometimes only 1 unopposed. But I think Clearwater deserves, and the people of Clearwater deserve to have people sitting here that ultimately can get the vote of confidence from more than 50% plus 1 vote of the electorate. I believe that very strongly. People I've talked to don't disagree with me. Yes, I talk to like-minded people, but I know a lot of people in this city too. So I've also talked to people that aren't of the same mindset with me, but I have yet to have somebody who really thinks having, and yes, Mr. Bunker, it's not personal towards you, but it is what it is. Having 5 people run for 1 seat and having the person who garners the most votes only get, less than 30% of the vote, that means 70% of the people thought someone else was better. I think we need to have it defined that, the people sitting here ultimately receive more than 50% of the vote. So, and I would like to bring Mr. Payne in for his presentation and kind of give everybody a.
Have we talked to him? Did we explore with him his willingness to come over?
No, that would be based on the vote tonight. So
Okay.
if there's a motion on the floor and it passes to bring Dr. Payne in, then I will approach him about that.
But we don't know if there's any cost associated. That's kind of the reason I'm asking.
No, but I'll be honest with you, sir. When we invited him for a charter review, he didn't charge us anything. He wouldn't even take a meal.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember Beckman?
So I feel strongly about this and not in agreement with Councilmember Hamilton, which is fine. We don't have to be in agreement. But I have a few questions, like why now, if you've served so many years, what is the sense of urgency? Like we have to do it right now and not wait for the charter?
I think the sense of, it's not a sense of urgency as much as it's the history, this past election, plus based on the upcoming election, I've heard as many as 12 names that are seriously considering running for 2 seats. Given that potential field, you know, heck, if you, and you may have 10 of those people decide to run for my seat because it's open and people don't want to run against an incumbent, so they all run for the open seat. You have, hypothetically, 8 people running for the seat. You could have the winner get 15% of the vote. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And Clearwater's gotten to the point where more and more people are expressing interest in running. Didn't used to be that way, because it used to be, well, I can tell you, historically, it was the business leaders of Clearwater that sat in these seats because the job didn't take, and the job really still doesn't take 40 or 50 hours a week. If you want to put that kind of time into it, you can. But to do what our job is doesn't take as much time. It takes more now than it did when Clearwater was 25,000 people. But it's not a full-time job. There are weeks based on the agenda that take more hours than other weeks, but you know, if you want to put 10 hours a day, 6 days, 7 days a week into this job, you're welcome to do it. But the job doesn't require that. And, you know, but we've always had, you know, people who you know, are invested in the community, wanting to sit up here and do that. But Clearwater is changing. We're getting more people interested and expressing interest in running. And if that's going to be what moving forward, we have multiple people running for each seat. I think the people of Clearwater have given that choice. Do you want the people sitting in this seat to have 50% or more of the vote? I'm interested in finding out what they say.
Well, I would say you need to honor the charter review process that we just had last year. And during that process, even towards the tail end of the charter review process, review committee, we knew that there were 13 people running for 3 seats last year, and you did not say anything. You did not raise a question. You did not ask them to discuss it. You know, I don't know if you had enough of a window, because we filed for our campaigns in September, and I believe that the Charter Review Committee made their presentation in early November. But there was an awareness that there are all these people running. I would say maybe the reason it's been business leaders who have sat up here is because they are the ones who could afford the time and the money to run a citywide campaign, which costs a fortune. It costs a whole bunch now, and it will cost even more when you have a turnaround and you've got to run a general after a primary. On Monday, you mentioned, well, St. Pete and Tampa each, you know, have runoff elections. And I would say that both St. Pete and Tampa also have district representation. They also pay their council members at least double what we get. And while this might be a part-time job, and it's described as a part-time job in St. Pete even, they have some legislative aides and different staff members, but for me, it's a full-time job. And so I know that you've got a lot more experience. I have more catch-up to do, and that might be part of it, but it's, for me to do a good job, it's a full-time job. My biggest problem is we're not honoring the process of the charter review. I don't see a knee-jerk reaction to one election as putting this out on a referendum to have people vote for it right now. I feel like if we dictate that, if we say we think it should be on a referendum, that's a very paternalistic way to govern, and it's an insult, frankly, to the whole charter review process that people just went through. I would say if we want to look at this, we present it to the next charter review committee, and they can fully look at it. Because if we're going to look at whether or not we have a majority versus a plurality, I think we need to give equal weight and attention to districts and to pay and to representation, up here. And to do that is very, very nuanced, and it takes a lot of time. And I don't think we need to ram this through right now. And as an educator, I am all for education. I'm learning every single day. But if I vote tonight to have this man come and inform us, it's opening the door for, I think I'm going to go down that hallway and open it up to put it on a ballot. And I don't want to. I want to honor the charter review, so I'm not going to vote to have this reopened now and us to get educated about the process. I just think it's incredibly disrespectful to our voters and our process.
Well, I can tell you, as far as what we get paid, you can lay that at the feet of former council people and former commissioners, because there have been multiple charter reviews that have come forward and say, you guys need to get paid more money. And the people sitting here have not had the appetite to say, I don't want my name associated with going to the public and say, you need to pay me more money. So you're never going to get more pay unless you're willing to say, folks, this job, and I'll be the one, I'll tell you, doing it for 13 years, the mayor can tell you, it's worth more money. The job we do is worth more money than we're getting paid. But you got to go to the voters to get permission to get paid more money. And I would, I don't know, Pam, is council pay something that has to go through charter review as well? Because I know the last
Nothing has to go through charter review,
the
by
last,
the way. Just
the last charter review, the last charter review recommended higher,
But this isn't about pay. It's not about pay.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not. And, districts are a different discussion, but I'm willing to have it. But, the problem, in St. Pete, you run for a district seat, but you're still elected citywide. So you've got to have enough money to get your message out to everyone in the city, even though you're being elected from a certain district. So it's, the money issue is always there, and St. Pete has runoffs, and, people in St. Pete raise a whole lot of money in their campaigns, and it is what it is. But I just feel very strongly that given the number of people that are talking about running next time, and I have no reason to believe that each election in the future we're going to have multiple people that are going to be interested in running, that the time has come for the people of Clearwater to decide if they want the people sitting here to get 50+1% of the vote.
I would say let's wait and see if it's a trend after just one election.
Vice Mayor.
Well, when you're on the Charter Review Committee, it's an advisory committee. I remember in 2015, I was on the Charter Review, and we came up with a lot of things that we thought were great ideas, brought it to council, and they adopted like 3 ideas out of it. And so it ultimately falls in the decision-making process, falls with us. Charter Review is an advisory committee. I mean, you can vet a lot of different things, and probably, I can tell you, every time there is a Charter Review Committee, they pretty much talk about the same things the last one talked about. They may add a couple of things in there, but, it's... So at this point, I can't see why, and I've heard Scott Payne, I know everybody here has, he's a great speaker and teacher. He might come up with some things that may say, like, well, let's hold off. I don't know. But it doesn't going to hurt to have him come in and talk to us about it. That doesn't mean we're going to take it out to referendum just to have him talk and to see the different, maybe I'm missing something, that, an idea that it would be easier than the pick three, that kind of thing, which I think the voters would not like. So I'm for just having him coming in and talk and telling us what is available and what cities of our population, what most of them do.
Councilmember Bunker.
I'm with Councilmember Beckman. We talked about this on Monday. People who are businessmen, who have a family business that's been passed down, who have money to run campaigns, they have an advantage. As I said on Monday, going up against Scientology, couldn't find a campaign manager, had trouble getting people who were worried about making a donation because their names and addresses had to be turned over. And we squeaked out a win at the end, thankfully, because, as every candidate has mentioned, every door you knocked on, people want to talk about Scientology. What are you going to do about Scientology? So if I had had to do a runoff, people who had raised multiple times what I raised would have had an advantage. It's 1 year later. I just paid off all my credit card debt from the campaign. So I agree that I'd want to vote no on this, and think this is not the way to go.
Just a moment. Ms. Aiken, can we just fact check some things?
Yes, sir.
First of all, we don't have to have a charter review for anything, right? The city council can in fact put a charter amendment on the ballot without going through a charter review process.
You are required to have charter review effectively every 4 years. You can put, council can put an item on for referendum without charter review at any time.
Okay. That is in our charter.
That is in your charter.
Okay. Just want to make certain of that. Councilmember Beckman?
Yeah, I would say another thing I think we need to consider as we go forward is we do have advisory boards, and the charter review is an advisory board. They made a number of recommendations to the sitting council last November. The council didn't take most of them. I would say that in light of the group of people that were working on giving feedback for Imagine Clearwater, and then they feel like they weren't, their feedback, their involvement wasn't really honored throughout the entire process of what we have now for Imagine Clearwater. And then we see now this very, very significant potential referendum question that's being put on by us, not respecting the setup, the standard operating procedure, our protocol. Granted, we can stick anything we want on there, but I think it's respectful to have full citizen engagement and feedback and deliberation for these things, especially, if we're going to bypass any talk of districting or better representation, because if you go to a runoff, it's about money and PACs. And if I'm an advocate for diversity of representation up here, that is not going to happen. And I think we need to have some kind of compromise and shaping, and that takes a process, and that takes resident, citizen, voter engagement. And I do not want to be the one up here slapping something on a ballot to say, I think it's a good idea. I'm the one up here who thinks it's a good idea, and we got to act on it right now because it's critical, and stick it up there. That's not me. No.
Well, first of all, I want to deal with some of your language. You use language sometimes that I think is unclear. You make it sound as though something is just, in stone. We don't have a specific protocol that we have to follow.
I got it.
I don't understand the opposition to having a professor of government come and educate all 5 of us and any citizen that wants to watch about the pros and cons of different forms of elections. That is, from an educator, I have to tell you, is a little foreign to me. Let me finish. To want to not hear from somebody, it does not mean that they will change your mind, but I think knowledge is power, and to be able to have more knowledge rather than just, dismissing out of hand having Dr. Payne come is mysterious to me, to say the least. I don't know that I really, care one way or the other. I will say that other than small cities, everywhere else, we elect a president by majority, our congressmen, our senators, our state representatives, our state senators, our county commissioners, all by a majority. There must be a reason the country does it at all levels of government. And ultimately, I don't know what we'll decide when we get a final vote and we actually have somebody come and talk about it. But ultimately, if it goes on the ballot, the citizens get to decide what they want to do. And isn't that ultimately who we work for? I think it is. We're really just representatives, and they've elected us to make decisions. And to put something on a ballot, I've never understood. The landings went on the ballot. The citizens spoke. I'm not upset that they said no. It's fine. We move on. They made a decision. We gave them the opportunity. People from both sides gave them the facts. And I trust their intelligence to make the right decision. So, I'm for Dr. Payne coming. Whether I vote for us going forward with a charter amendment is another story. But I frankly could not understand not having the doctor come and speak to us. That will be an utter mystery to me.
Well, can I answer that? Maybe
You may.
explain it? Okay. So I think by approving or voting to have him come and educate us is sending a tacit message that it's okay to go down that. If I'm willing to hear from you about these different forms, then I'm willing to consider going down that path to put it on a referendum. And to me, it's not about the education, it's about the message that, yeah, I'm open to considering that right now for a possible, November referendum or March election or wherever it might land. Whereas I would advocate to put it in the optional process, not in stone, of having it be a topic for the charter review and have those people vet it robustly with a discussion in tandem about districts. Yes, there are a lot of elections, most elections maybe, that have 51% majority. And when you say let's let the voters decide, that's fine too. And this is a fact of life that we all have to deal with at every single election, but there are PACs and big money that influence elections. And when you say, let's let the voters decide, PACs can spring up. They did for the landings, to put $20,000 in to a lobby for a position and reach voters that other people might not have. And that's just a fact of life. It is. But if you have a group of people that want a certain type of member up here on the dais and they have money, they will give $40,000 to 2 or 3 candidates that are similar to them for this seat. And who cares about the runoff? They've already got a guy in here who represents their values. And so they can pour it all in, you know, to a primary and then, you know, it's done. So I just, you know, I hope you understand, I'm not against education. We can all get recommended to read a book or something. But when we open the process to having someone come here and then we have another discussion, well, maybe we should put it on. We've negated the whole, you know, giving value to our charter review process.
Well, if I, Councilman Beckman, you always like, one of your terms you like to say is citizen engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Giving every registered voter in the city of Clearwater a chance to vote on whether or not this is a good thing or not. I can't think of a greater degree of citizen engagement than that right there. I mean, you are giving every single person registered to vote in the city of Clearwater to vote whether or not they think this is a good idea. There's not a greater level of citizen engagement than that. And, you know, I just think, as for reasons I previously stated, I think the time has come for us to let's engage the citizens with this referendum and see where they land.
Vice Mayor is next.
Well, yeah, you know, you're talking about PACs and big money, and that's the only way you're going to win. Yeah, you know, the Landings had $100,000 by a developer against what, $500, and they lost. So it's not always money. It's who the people of Clearwater think that should be up here. That's your best choice, and not always money buys a seat on council. So I kind of disagree with the way you were thinking there.
Councilmember Bunker and then Beckman.
I seldom have trouble understanding Councilmember Beckman. I appreciate her comments. I do think if 10 people were running for your seat, and somebody, say, from North Greenwood won, because it was divided 10 ways, and they had the most votes, I think that would be healthy for the council. Instead of having that person then, without money, be crushed in the runoff. It brings diversity, it brings options. Now, you'd rather not have me here talking about Scientology, I understand that. But 27% of the people, at least, said, well, yeah, let's tackle that subject from time to time. So out of those 10 people, there may be an important issue that gets ignored because it's business people who are running the council. You know, maybe it is fair to say, well, they didn't get 51% of the vote, but they're bringing a perspective that was important enough for them to win, and it's healthy.
There are a lot of people that have been on this council that are not business people, by the way. If you want me to go down the list, I know y'all weren't around to see them, but, you know, they existed. So housewives and just individual professionals that weren't big business people. We had environmentalists and scientists and all sorts of things. So just to say that it's all business people up here, you got to do a little bit of homework first before everybody makes comments. It's just not accurate. Councilmember Beckman.
So if you want people to vote on this, and I certainly don't, not like this, not this knee-jerk, not this quick, not after one election. But can you acknowledge that we should at least discuss the nuance of districts in conjunction with this? Because I think for people, I think for black and brown people or people without means, that it is daunting to run a citywide election. And if we're gonna have a primary and then you've gotta turn around and raise money again, and if the slate gets wiped clean and all those big donors get to pour in money immediately, the turn of a dime, I think we need something to help people, normal, everyday people, compete and have a voice. And I think to do all that, in my conversation with Ms. Aiken today, that's very complex. That's not something that can get done in 2 or 3 months, and educating the public about it.
I mean, talking about districts is much more than a nuance. It is highly technical, highly specific, and there is a lot of work to be done. You can't just take a map of Clearwater and drop one line this way, one line this way, and say, here's your 4 districts. You can't do it that way, and it is definitely something that can be, we could start looking at that right now, but I can promise you, looking at the district part of it, I don't think we could get that worked out, or, the specifics of that. I don't think you could get that done before next March.
Well, we're not here to talk
that's why I
about
said it's two
districts. This is a different conversation, and I'd like to stay on task.
No, and like I said, my whole thing tonight, and I guess I'll put it in the form of a motion, I would make a motion to instruct the city clerk to contact Mr. Payne, Dr. Payne, and see if we can schedule him for a presentation.
And I'll second that for the presentation. That's all I'm supporting right now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Council members, because there is a motion, there are members of the public who wish to speak.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Mr. Horn, Ms. Aiken. My name is Jamie Lewis. I reside at 616 Lake Forest Road. I understand you're voting on bringing in a consultant, but I rise to speak in opposition to amending the city charter to require 50% for any candidate seeking office in the city. I say this because this simple amendment would force runoffs in any election with more than 2 candidates, essentially, most likely. Not absolutely, but most likely. And historically and empirically, runoff elections in this country have proven to disadvantage minority candidates, women candidates, and candidates without big money behind them. In addition, most of those voters who are minorities, poor, transportation disadvantaged, have difficulty getting to polls on election day once, let alone asking them to do it twice. And an amendment like this would have a chilling effect on their franchise. Compound with that, the issue that's been spoken about, the amount of money it takes to run a runoff election once a regular campaign has already been put together, makes it very exclusionary upon this council. And it may not have always been business people on the council, but if we're going to make changes, let's make changes that move us forward. Let's do it in a comprehensive manner that does talk about single-member districts and does talk about salary and public financing of campaigns. If we're going to do it, let's talk about it in a holistic manner. So I just ask you to consider that. I know you're talking about bringing in a consultant, but even doing that does kind of move this, start moving this forward. And I do agree that it may be positive for democracy to have majority rule, but there's a way to do that, and it's not to pick 2, but maybe a ranked preference voting. Not just picking 2 out of 10 and those 2 are elected, but allowing each ballot, each voter to rank 1, 2, 3, 4 every candidate, discard the ballot to the lowest vote receiver, reapportion those ballots to the second preference over and over until you have 2 candidates, and one of them will receive 50% or greater of the vote. And that allows the voters to select candidates who they think may not have a great chance of winning and not feel like they're throwing their vote away. If there's a single issue environmental candidate or anything of that nature, people can still rank that person 1 and then rank 2 for someone who they think may have a better chance. So I just ask you to consider that. This is a citizen engagement of a greater level than simply putting it on the referendum. But So I appreciate your time and thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you. We did discuss ranked voting on Monday. If you watched the work session, I brought that up. We were going to talk to the supervisor of elections. Have you had an opportunity to do that yet?
Not had an opportunity to get feedback, but I will before.
Are there emails on this too?
Just one. Beth Davis, this will restrict a diverse representative council. Money will be a driver to complete with the possibility of a runoff. Perhaps the person should win 40% of the vote, but find a compromise to maintain and keep an open field of candidates.
Very good. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 3-2 with Bunker and Beckman in opposition. Closing comments. Councilmember Beckman.
Yeah, I just want to say that it was a year ago yesterday that I was elected, so I want to thank voters for the honor and privilege to serve. It's been an exciting first year, and I'm looking forward to continuing the work and learning for the next 3 years. So, off to a good start, I hope.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I had talked to Rose before this, and I just wanted to mention that I've asked her to see if she could put on the our legislative priority list Senator Hooper's fire prevention and control bill that is up. It authorizes the use of radio communication enhancement systems, and it puts off the, I think this year we've got some fire codes that will affect all the residents of buildings, of all the owners of buildings 4 stories or more. And he's got a bill that is going to put that off until we come up with a solution that maybe would be a little bit better than that. So just wanted to make you aware of that.
All right. Councilmember Hamilton.
Spring break is in full swing. Traffic is what it is. Plan accordingly, but happy Easter to everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Councilmember Bunker.
A couple weekends ago, I attended the Clearwater Jazz event at Station Square Park, and it was a terrific event. Absolutely wonderful evening. I have to say that the volunteer who greeted me at the event was Scientologist Joni Siegel, and we got along fine. She came up to me at intermission and asked for a donation for the festival. I said, absolutely. I didn't mention before, but when Scientology is handing out that injunction about me, it goes both ways. I'm supposed to stay 10 feet away from Scientologists. Scientologists are all supposed to stay 10 feet away from me and everybody else who was named on the injunction. But when Scientology uses that against me or anyone, they never bring that up. At any rate, it was a great evening at the park. And looking forward to the next few years where, without riots in the streets, and hopefully with the pandemic at bay, we can start stripping Scientology of that tax exempt status.
Well, we had the opportunity to go see the Phillies versus the Pirates, and most of the council made it to that at the Clearwater for Youth banquet. It was a great event, as always. It was distanced and outside, and much money was raised for scholarships for youth. I got a chance this Saturday to go to the dedicated senior medical center on the corner of Highland and Druid, and they were giving out just a myriad of vaccines, and you could just see the seniors that were coming in and how excited they were, but the word that really you heard from most of them was relief. And so it was very nice to see the whole staff there. They do a marvelous job of treating people on Medicare and Medicaid, and it was exciting. The city manager and the chief and I met with the Drew Park Homeowners Association. I want to thank them for that opportunity. We're going to continue to work with them, hopefully make their neighborhood stronger with some issues that they're facing. As Councilmember Hamilton said, spring break is here. And so the 2020-21 spring break season is here. The city of Clearwater has a web page for visitors to use. It's www.myclearwater.com/spring break. Businesses are encouraged to remind guests that alcohol is not allowed on the beach or sidewalks. Beachgoers are encouraged to spread out and mask up. In fact, if you do, you might get a $25 gift certificate from the TDC. There will be no park and ride program for 2021, but there will be an increase in capacity with available transportation options. There will be no beach capacity dashboard in operation during this year. There will be an increased police presence with the goal of keeping businesses, residents, and visitors safe. Summer camp is coming up. Register for Clearwater Summer Camp is now open. Camps run from June 14th through August 6th. Visit myclearwaterparks.com/summer camps for more information. The Countryside Recreation Center will hold its annual Easter extravaganza on Saturday, April 3rd from 10 a.m. to noon. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the Easter egg hunts will not take place. However, there will be plenty of fun. This doesn't read very well, Joel. However, there will be plenty of fun as attendees grab their bunny trail passports and collect stamps as they move from station to station, completing fun games and activities while collecting prize-filled eggs at the end of the trail. You'll be able to take your picture with the Easter Bunny, visit the Parks and Rec's Facebook page. So I got you excited about an Easter egg hunt, and then I called it off in the second sentence. So the excellent Clearwater Beach Scavenger Hunt. In place of doing the annual egg hunt, the Clearwater Beach Recreation Center will be having a virtual scavenger hunt for kids 17 and under. Participants will get a picture taken with or take a selfie with at least 10 of 20 Clearwater Beach iconic images. Once you have done so, bring or send your digital pictures to Clearwater Beach Recreation Center between March 19th and April 3rd to claim your Easter-themed prize. Visit the Parks and Recreation Center Facebook page or call the Clearwater Beach Recreation Center at 727-462-6138 for more information. Clearwater residents may bring up to 6 unwanted electronics to the city's free monthly electronics collection event hosted by Clearwater Solid Waste and Recycling Department. Electronics are accepted include television, cell phones, computer towers, CPU drives such as hard drives and CD drives, laptops, desktop monitors, smartphones, and tablets. The city will not accept any electronics that have been scavenged. Next event is Wednesday, March 31st from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the city's solid waste complex. Summer camp counselors wanted. The city of Clearwater is looking for outgoing, enthusiastic, creative, and responsible people to become camp counselors at the city's summer camps. Summer camps are active from June 14th to August 6th. To apply, inquire at or call the recreation center of your choice. Pool guards needed. The city of Clearwater is currently recruiting for pool lifeguards. Lifeguard fees will be waived if participants can pass prerequisite requirements. To see requirements and to apply, visit myclearwater.com and click on the Apply for Employment link under the How Do I Do It tab. With that, we are adjourned. Have a wonderful Easter. Be safe and God bless.